we are seeing every day insane miracles. Literally every day I read of a missile that falls in a courtyard of a school, but there's no children, thank God, in the school then, or falls right in the holy graveyard in Sfat, right by the mikvah of the Arizal. So much protection, because literally every day rockets are being shot. And we sort of get like immune to it because, well, nothing happened. Just to remember the enormity of the miracles every single day happening, that they're shooting again and again and again and again and again, nonstop. And God just keeps protecting. What we're doing is taking a historical perspective. What I say, we're making like the scroll of Esther, Megillas Esther. We want to, just like in the scroll of Esther, where we uncover what's hidden, we want to uncover the hidden hand of God. We want to remember all the miracles, and we want to note all the steps that God put into place leading up to the possibility today for this destruction of the evil of Iran. Because it's not like, oh, and America and Israel decided to go to war and then they could knock off Iran. It's not as simple as that. And many things got put into place to make this happen. But we also really just want to look back and look at those huge miracles to remind us and reassure us that this is a cocoon of miracles, that God constantly is doing miracles for us. And to be confident, to be secure, to be certain that these miracles are protecting the Jewish people in Israel, the Jewish people outside of Israel, the land of Israel, to be really confident and secure in God's constant protection. So last week, we started going all the way back to 2020, not to COVID, which is of course what we think of when we think of the year 2020, but to something else that happened that was probably, as I can look at it, this first step in January of 2020, where Trump ordered and then was executed the assassination of Soleimani, who was the coordinator, the funder, the driving force behind all of Iran's proxy network. As we said, we've got Hezbollah in Lebanon, right the northern border of Israel. This was a very small country, the size of New Jersey. The northern border means they're standing on your toes. Hamas in Gaza, that's the western end of Israel. The Houthis in the south, Iraq in the east. All of these are proxies. All of this is what Iran called their axis of resistance to first thing, destroy Israel. So with him gone, this whole network gets a little less smart, a little less coordinated, less successful. Things start to crumble. And that's very significant, because if this network, and of course, most significantly Hezbollah, if they were as strong as they were in 2020, then we wouldn't be able to attack Iran now, because they would be making sure we wouldn't be able to. They would be sending so many missiles at us. Hezbollah started with an arsenal of 150,000 missiles that we would never have been able to. I saw today, they said by now Hezbollah has used or it's been destroyed about 80% of that stockpile. Amazing. That was very significant in 2020. We said the Abraham Accords were very significant because that created a legitimacy. Israel is now united with other Arabic countries that are Sunni Muslim, that are also scared of Iran. And now we're in this war together, which means it's not just Israel's war. It's a war of other Arab nations, that Iran is also targeting them and also sending missiles to them. And that legitimizes the war in the eyes of the world and makes it less like, well, if it's Israel, then right away, we know what happens. That's not just Israel. Israel is united now with these other Arabic nations. We said in October 7th, again, seeing this breakdown among the unification of Iran's proxies, Sinwar jumped ahead, and Hezbollah, where they were supposed to attack at the same time, they did it one day later. Hamas attacked October 7th, Hezbollah attacked October 8th. That was one day too late, because by then the IDF, of course, understood what could, should, might, would happen, and they were protecting the northern border. They didn't let it happen. And I think it's really significant to keep in mind all the horrors of October 7th, what they were planning, absolute destruction of Israel, killing of millions of Jews, and how that did not happen because for some God-ordained reason, Sinwar went a day early, or earlier than he was supposed to, just as, yes, even in the horrors, there's a lot of kindness from God. We jumped to 2024, where we saw again in April 200 plus ballistic missiles from Iran, 0 Jewish lives taken. In May, the Iranian president killed in that helicopter crash. If we can't take care of them, God will. In July, Trump surviving that assassination attempt in a very clear way, which we said made no sense on both directions, how Crooks managed to get that close, and yet Trump turning his head literally a split second, saving his life, very much highlighting that God's saying, I'm saving him. I'm saving him. He's going to be utilized. He's needed. In July, we spoke two back-to-back within the same 24 hours, how the political leader of Hamas taken down somehow in Tehran. And the day before, the second in command of Hezbollah killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut, where officially nobody knows where he is. He has no telecommunication whatsoever, $5 million bounty from America on his head. But Israel knew, and Israel took him down. And all of these events are really giving us the message of God's reassurance and protection, giving us the message that God's giving us success, weakening these organizations practically, and weakening these organizations psychologically. Wherever you are, we will get you. You're in Tehran, we can get you. The world doesn't know where you are. We know. We will get you. So all of these things were very, very significant blows to them. And of course, very, very strengthening and reassuring for us. And then we spoke of, again, very similarly, how Hezbollah, that was in July of 2024, the next month, the end of August 2024, where Hezbollah is like, okay, now we are going to just destroy Israel with this barrage of missiles. And how 15 minutes before, Israel knocks out all of those missiles and missile launchers. Same message. Reassurance to us, protection for us, success for us, God's miracles for us. And so weakening these organizations. They lost so much of their arsenal then, and also psychologically weakening them. Whatever we try to do, somehow Israel's one step ahead. Yeah. God makes Israel look very good. God makes Israel look beyond what's possible. It's possible because it's God. And then we spoke of, in September of 2024, again, Israel just looking beyond superhuman, amazing, like unbelievable, destroying this Iranian factory to build guided missiles for Hezbollah in Syria, deep in the Syrian mountain, and how Israel got in, destroyed it, and got out in the space of less than 2 hours. And because 2.5 hours later, the Syrian army is there, and there's not one Israeli, and there's a destroyed factory that they had just spent 2 years building. All of these things are very much weakening specifically Hezbollah, right? We're seeing the destruction of a lot of their munitions, taking down all of their chief leaders. And all of this is really putting into play what's happening now. Because Hezbollah, besides being charged with destroying Israel, besides being charged of making sure that if Israel ever tries to go to Iran, Hezbollah will so distract us we won't be able to, which they're trying to do now completely unsuccessfully. But also Hezbollah was Iran's proxy army, 100,000 terrorists, for other situations that they wanted to support. For example, the reign of Assad, keeping Assad in power in Syria. And because Hezbollah was so weak by everything that happened, when we come to December of 2024, we're not there yet, and Assad crumbles, it's a peace coming from all of these. And that peace also, what do we care? We care very much, because that, again, is opening the road for us to destroy Iran. What we're up to is, of course, the very exciting story that we all know. We all live through this. Everything I'm saying is stories. We live through all of these. We know exactly what we're talking about here, of pagers and the walkie-talkies, exciting times that we all experienced and really all felt, wow, God, so cool, so amazing. You're taking such good care of us. So what happened as the backstory for this amazing coup of Israel was around 10 years before. So we're talking about 2014, roughly. In the Israeli intelligence, analysts are looking at Hezbollah, very carefully to try to see where's a crack in the system. And a young analyst, 27 years old, and she's looking at these dead Hezbollah fighters, and she notices how each one wears a walkie-talkie right by their heart. She's like, wow, if we could put a bomb in that walkie-talkie, we could get them so fast. So working for the Mossad is like, let's try to see if this is possible. And they created a shell company in Germany that connected with a legitimate company in Taiwan that provides communication devices all over the world. It's an online business. And the next time Hezbollah ordered walkie-talkies from this company in Taiwan, the order was really filled by this German, really Mossad company that put a little C4 in each walkie-talkie with a remote detonating device. Okay. They sell them to Hezbollah, and the Mossad waits. They're not doing anything with them. For 10 years, Hezbollah is wearing these walkie-talkies. Israel's monitoring. Israel does nothing. Israel waits. The head of Hezbollah, who was the head for 32 years, again, invincible. You can never get me down. I live in an underground bunker. You'll never get me. But we did. Nasrallah. He starts getting paranoid because it just seems whatever he does, Israel's one step ahead. So obviously, Israel somehow is eavesdropping. And he's like, well, Israel is high tech. So the only way to get past high tech is to go low tech. Let's get pagers. Like walkie-talkies are too high tech. Let's get pagers. Now, nobody sells pagers because they're so low tech. And he wants 5,000. But 2 years before this, meaning in like 2022, 2021, I don't know the exact date, but approximately 2 years before, the Mossad started thinking, now Hezbollah has walkie-talkies. Hezbollah is probably going to go to pagers. And they started experimenting, putting a few grams of explosives in pagers, like just enough to harm the person holding it and not strong enough to harm anyone else. They just were targeting the fighters. And they experimented which ringtones create urgency, that they'll pick them up. How long does it take to answer a ringtone? It takes 7 seconds. And they created such a pager with a few grams of explosives. And they were like, we can't make it slim enough. It's bulky. Forget it. Why would anyone buy a bulky pager? How would Hezbollah ever buy such a pager? If they ever do what we think they do and decide to get pagers, they never get a pager like this. It's too bulky. And they said, no. We got to make this pager so cool that if Hezbollah ever is going to order pagers, this is the pager they're going to order. So they started putting out these ads on social media. This is such a robust pager. It withstands dust, water, the longest battery life. It has character. And people that for some reason wanted a pager were very interested in the pagers. And every time someone tried to make an order, again, through the same German shell company connected to this Chinese Taiwan company, they set a very high price because they weren't wanting to sell to anyone but Hezbollah. And then when 2 years later, Hezbollah was like, we have to go low tech. Nasrallah said, forget walkie-talkies. We need pagers. So they got to these pagers that, again, the Mossad had thought of and worked on and planted and advertised 2 years before. They gave them a few free samples. They experimented with them. They said, this is the best pager. If Nasrallah says pagers, this is a pager to go. And in the end, Hezbollah ordered 5,000 pagers. And they got 5,000 pagers with a little C4 in each one and a detonating device. So Nasrallah said, forget our walkie-talkies, put the walkie-talkies in your closet. We're so low tech, we're only using pagers. Israel will never be able to eavesdrop. And that's what happened. So Hezbollah they were wearing for 10 years our walkie-talkies. They took off the walkie-talkies and they started wearing pagers. After October 7th, Sinwar, Hamas, said, we are having no digital communication because whatever we have, for sure, Israel's going to eavesdrop. We're passing messages with couriers in the tunnels. And Nasrallah is informed of this. And he's like, yeah, Sinwar is right. For sure, Israel is still eavesdropping. They always are a step ahead of us. They always know what we're doing. They're always getting us. We're going to go even lower tech. Forget pagers. We're going to have just like couriers, notes. That's it. We're all underground. We're all in tunnels. We're all in bunkers. We're going to do it that way. And Nasrallah says, in 3 days, forget your pagers, put them on the shelf with your walkie-talkies, just head notes. Now, Israel, who of course is eavesdropping, hears this, and they say, wow, if we don't use these pagers now, forget it. They're going to gather dust just like our walkie-talkies that we invested so much in and had Hamas, Hezbollah wiring, and then forget it. We never use them. So they said, we've got to blow up these pagers within these 3 days. So Tuesday, September 17th at 2:30, a page goes out to Hezbollah, to 5,000 Hezbollah fighters. Hold your pagers up to your eye and push 2 buttons and a classified message will appear. The idea was, of course, that the pagers should blow up right by their brains. And they push the buttons, it detonates, Israel blows up the pagers, and only 42 of these evil villains were killed, but over 3,000 were wounded enough to have to leave the fight. So from the 5,000 that had them, 3,000 were wounded and 42 were knocked off. How many Jews were lost in this operation? 0. That was September 17th. The next day, September 18th, Wednesday, the Israel intelligence hears that Nasrallah tells Hezbollah, well, no more touching those pagers. They're in the garbage. Take out your walkie-talkies. So those walkie-talkies that have been gathering dust for the past year or two that they're wearing their pagers instead, Hezbollah puts on those walkie-talkies and Israel says, ooh, okay, this is our opportunity. Wednesday, they detonated all the walkie-talkies. Tuesday, the pagers. Wednesday, the walkie-talkies. Thursday, Nasrallah says, there's no tech at all. No walkie-talkies, no pagers. So, but we need to communicate. So he said to his 20 remaining commanders, you got to get together in a certain apartment to plan our strategic move against Israel. That's what are they doing to us? Israel came with 3 jets with missiles. They sent 3 missiles into that apartment and took down all 20 commanders. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, the pagers. Wednesday, the walkie-talkies. Thursday, their 20 top commanders done, targeted. Hezbollah is decimated. Practically, they're decimated. And even more practically, psychologically, they're decimated. Psychologically, they're destroyed. We can't touch anything. We're scared of everything. We're terrified of everything. And somehow, whatever we do, Israel knows. Israel's there first. Israel's getting us. Just think what happened over this past year. They are like, thank God, basket cases. And in this entire operation, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, how many soldiers did Israel lose? 0. Which is truly like from the pages of Tanakh, from the pages of scriptures. Tremendous miracle. And a tremendous step in leading today to the destruction of Hezbollah, this most critical proxy of Iran. Again, we're saying this to see the miracles, to be confident and certain in the miracles that are happening now, and to understand the chain of very significant, though seemingly isolated events, recognizing nothing is isolated. It's all leading to the destruction of this evil empire that has held 90 million of its own citizens hostage for 50 years. And God literally is now allowing us to pull this empire down, which is heralding redemption. Get rid of that evil. It's a time for godliness. That was mid-September, right? Mid-September of 2024, September 17th, September 18th, September 19th, September 27th, some 8 days later, Nasrallah himself is eliminated. To understand this, Nasrallah was like this invincible symbol of terror, saturated in blood. Nasrallah led Hezbollah for 32 years. Iran's most hardened army of 100,000 fighters. I said with an arsenal of 150,000 rockets. How do we get rid of him? He never comes up from underground. Israel dropped 80 bombs on his underground bunker. Now, America has something called bunker bombs, to bust the bunkers. Israel doesn't have that. But Israel poured 80 bombs on the bunker that they identified. They identified this as the spot. And we know exactly where Nasrallah is, and we're going to destroy him with 80 bombs. And it worked. Gone. Which completely weakened Hezbollah. Their leader of 32 years is gone. And again, destruction of Hezbollah, leading to destruction of Syria, allowing for the now destruction of Iran, and with zero loss of Jewish life. And Hezbollah appointed a replacement that Israel knocked down. And then they appointed a replacement for the replacement, which Israel knocked down. And then a replacement for the replacement of the replacement, with Israel knocked down as well. That was the end of September. October 1st, 2024. Now, Iran's getting really mad at us, right? Look what we're doing to their strongest proxy. We're completely destroying. So, yeah, you think you can get away with it? We'll show you. Okay, you're going to fight Hezbollah. Okay, that's just a large terrorist organization. We're Iran. We're the center. We're the power. We're one of those powerful countries in the world. Iran sent in one day, October 1st, 200 plus ballistic missiles. And again, thank you, God, this was not a covert miracle. This was an overt, nature-defying miracle. Not one Jew was killed. I say nature-defying because all the scientists involved in all of these systems, in the Arrow system, in David's slingshot, in the Iron Dome, they say that's impossible. It's not 100% effective, as we see, of course, in this war. Missiles get through. Thank God. God is somehow protecting us that it gets through when there's loss of property and no loss of life. But it's not 100% effective. But Iran sent 200 plus ballistic missiles in one shot, and not one Jew lost his life. One thing is, thank you, God. And the second thing is, why is it so significant? Because this enabled Israel's legitimate, justified response a few weeks later, which was a very critical step to what's happening now. Before we get to that, something else happened that, again, just shows when God wants you down, you are down. When you are done, you are done. So that was October 1st, when Iran made a complete fool of themselves. And even among all the Arabic press, they were a laughingstock. They're sending 200 plus ballistic missiles and not one Jew gets killed? Laughingstock of the Middle East. 2 weeks later, October 16th, Sinwar, the head of Hamas, gets killed like a dog. Everyone said he's impregnable. I remember, we all heard it. He surrounds himself by the hostages, so you'll never get him because you'll have to get through those hostages first. He's deep underground. He has many powerful guards. He has no electronics traceable. All communication is trusted personal couriers. Impossible. We will never get him. Well, guess what? Not only did we get him, but we got him like the most common, insignificant terrorist. Sinwar, he dies. We didn't even know who he was when he first was killed. Nasrallah, remember Nasrallah? We just spoke. It was a targeted mission. 80 bombs were fired to break through his underground bunker. Nasrallah died like a dog. And God did this so strongly to just emphasize his point. It was a group of new recruits. They were actually ultra-religious, a group of ultra-religious cadets. They were their own unit. They were given this section of Gaza to watch, look out for the terrorists. Obviously, officially, it's a cleared area. Officially, there are no terrorists there, but we know that doesn't mean anything. And in other words, it was a very insignificant assignment. They weren't high level. This isn't any elite unit. This is the most common unit. It's a very green unit. It was an ultra-religious unit, which means they thought even less highly of it. It was a small, insignificant unit given a small, insignificant assignment to watch a certain area of Gaza, which officially they were not terrorists, but like we always have to watch because, of course, yeah. So they're watching, and they have drones. And with the drones, they seek two terrorists. Okay, they know they're supposed to get them. And the two terrorists separate, and one goes into a building and up the stairs, and there's a fight back and forth, and they get him. And then they go on to the other terrorist, which took longer. It took quite a number of hours until in the end they got that second terrorist. The next day, they were like, let's go back to that first terrorist. Like we always have to check all the bodies, see if there's anything on them, any intelligence, identification. So they go to that terrorist that had run up the stairs and they had this fight with him until they knocked him down. And they're examining his corpse. We had no idea on it. And they're like, he looks sort of like Sinwar. Sinwar. We just killed Sinwar. Maybe. They sent his corpse to the forensics. And they said, yes. This mastermind of the horrors of October 7th and all the other Hamas horrors for years, his time was up. He was taken down like the most insignificant little clog of the Hamas machinery. What an absolute miracle. And what a step toward today. So weakening Hamas, who by now have lost their leaders and the replacements for their leaders and the replacements for those leaders. We're up to the end of October, October 26, 2024. Very significant thing happens. Remember, I told you on October 1st, Iran, probably very annoyed at us for what we were doing to Hezbollah, said, we'll show you. And they sent 200 plus ballistic missiles that made them the laughingstock of the Middle East. Well, on October 26, Israel responded. And again, this was such a legitimate response. Hey, you shot at us 200 ballistic missiles. I mean, we're allowed to respond. What was the response? Very brilliant. I pray every day that God should give wisdom to the government. I'm sure many of us pray that they should have the wisdom to know what to do. So they had a lot of wisdom here on October 26 and some very high-tech technology because they had a mission where they had 3 waves of strike in 20 locations. They had some new technology that they managed to fly undetected, and they knocked out Iran's entire aerial defense system. They crippled their missile production. They damaged their defense system. They destroyed their surface-to-air missile batteries. They destroyed their long-range detection radars. They destroyed a nuclear weapons research facility. And what's very, 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 very significant, it wasn't just, okay, you shot us, we're having this strike and shooting you. They're so degraded, Iran's air defense and missile production, that it made future attacks doable. Meaning what they accomplished in this operation was destroying the ability of Iran to defend their airspace. And therefore, in June, 12-day war, and now it was relatively speaking so easy for Israel to take over the airspace of Iran because on October 26th of 2024, they already crippled it so extremely. Yes, they had a few things in place that we knocked out. But on October 26th, in these 3 waves of strike, they so destroyed the air defense system that last June and now so quickly we conquered their airspace. Israel accomplished this without losing one highlight. And Iran threatened a big response, and Iran never did anything because they probably knew it would just be an excuse for us to come back and do more. It was so significant because it removed the shield that would have blocked everything that followed. It cleared the skies. And then, after that, beyond unexpected, unbelievable, was the fall of Syria, where many people could say, Syria, what does that have to do with us? I mean, Assad was a horrifically evil person, but the new ruler is probably not much better. What do we care? We care a lot. Why? Let's understand the history a little. Syria, for 10 years, had civil wars. For 10 years, Assad's people again and again and again tried to overthrow him. And they never succeeded because Assad is protected. This is not a terrorist group. This is a country. He has a very strong army, and he had Hezbollah. If you can envision the map, think of Israel, to the north of Israel, Lebanon, that's Hezbollah, and to the northeast of Israel, on the eastern flank of Israel, on the northern side of the country, Syria. So Lebanon, Syria, very, 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 very close. So whenever Assad needed Hezbollah, 100,000 terrorists, come to his defense, augmenting his own very strong army. And Assad was ruthless. Assad was brutal. Assad had chemical warfare, and he used it against his own people. But now, in 2024, Hezbollah is destroyed. So one of the many rebel groups that were trying to knock down Assad, head by Ashra, a very evil person. He has a $10 million bounty on his head from America, a very evil person as well. He realizes this is his chance because now Hezbollah is not going to be around to protect Assad. It still makes no sense. Rebels on pickup trucks with RPGs are taking down a government, an incredibly repressive government that they've been trying to take down since March of 2011. And every time they tried, they were so strongly shut down. This is a government that has an army, has a navy, has an air force, has chemical weapons that they used against their own people, are developing nuclear weapons. This is a country that between Iran and Russia, billions have been poured into the country's defense system. Because for both Iran and Russia, the country of Syria was in essence a suburb, a proxy. In 11 days, this rebel group took down the country. Everything collapses. The army drops their uniform and runs. It's like biblical. When Sancheiriv, who was the world leader, the strongest army at that time, and he was at the doorstep of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, and God promised Chizkiah a miracle. Chizkiah, don't give in to him. Don't, Sancheiriv had already exiled the northern country of Yisrael, which was the larger country. That's where we get our 10 lost tribes, because he exiled that country with their 10 tribes. And Yehuda, the southern country, was much smaller. It's just 2 tribes. And people that had come from the northern country that had joined them, the very righteous people from the northern country, was a much smaller, weaker country. And Sancheiriv is demanding, give in to me or I'll destroy you. And God sent a prophecy. No, don't give in. Trust, I'll destroy them. And that night, the next day, it was Pesach, and Sancheiriv, that was his due date, right? His final hour. He was going to come in and destroy the temple, Jerusalem, and the people of Judah, of Yehuda. And God put fear in the hearts of his army, and they ran. They ran for no reason. They were terrified. They scattered. They were gone, and we continued. And now, in December of 2024, God put fear in the hearts of this army, and they dropped their uniforms and run. But what does Israel do so significant during this period of chaos in Syria? Again, we keep praying that Israel should have the intelligence and know what to do. What did Israel do? Israel says, wow, this is the moment. We're taking out all the information we know about the Syrian army, because we have a lot of information, because Syria is our neighbor. They're right at our flank. And there's a very uneasy peace between us. And they've done a lot of harm for us. Until the 6-Day War, they were constantly shooting down from the Golan Heights at all of those settlements. Very, very, very unfriendly, dangerous neighbor. So we have a lot of intelligence on them. Everything we know about them, we're putting on the table now. We're going to destroy it all in 48 hours. This is not a terrorist group. This is a country. This is a country that Iran and Russia poured billions into their defense system. December 8th and 9th of 2024, Israel sent 350 planes on 350 missions. Every plane had their own unique mission. We have 48 hours because they understood that now there's a lot of chaos. And in the chaos and everything's going crazy, we could just do a lot and get away with it. One thing settle down even a little bit, we're not going to be able to. So fast, 350 planes, 350 missions, 48 hours. What did they do in those 48 hours? They bombed every single Syrian Air Force jet. None remained. They bombed every Syrian Navy boat. None remained. They killed the Syrian generals, took them all down. They killed every nuclear scientist working on Syria's nuclear weapons program. None remained. They killed every chemical scientist working on their chemical weapons, which they had, as we know, they used them against their own people. None remained. They took southern Syria as a buffer zone. 48 hours, 350 missions, destroying their army, their navy, their air force, their nuclear and chemical weapon programs. And how many Israeli soldiers were lost in 48 hours? 350 missions? Zero. Zero. A miracle like straight from the pages of scriptures. We captured them without a shot. the highest peak of Mount Hermon, the other side of the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights is the mountain range bordering between Israel and Syria, the northeastern side of Israel. Until the Six-Day War in 1967, the Syrians would stand on the Golan Heights and, as I said, shoot down at all the settlements. The Six-Day War was tremendous miracles, and there was also a lot of loss of life. We had Syria from the north, Jordan from the east, Egypt from the southwest. God gave us everything in 6 days. From Egypt, we conquered the entire Sinai. From Jordan, we got eastern Jerusalem and Hebron, that whole area. And from Syria, we got 2/3 of the Golan Heights, meaning the 2/3 on the Israel side we conquered. There was 1/3 on the Syrian side that we didn't. We conquered that with a lot of life. A lot of soldiers perished for us to achieve getting those heights of the Golan, which was a tremendous critical step that kept us protected until today. From 1967 until today, Syria was never able to use the heights again to shoot down and harm us. So it was a big cost, but we've kept it since 67, and it's been peaceful since 67. Now, without a shot, without a loss of one soldier, we got the entire eastern side, the Syrian side of the Golan Heights as well, meaning we had about 2/3, and now we got the other third. And interestingly, along the same lines, 7 Druze villages in this area that we took over, they all said, Israel, please stay. We don't want to be under Syria. We want to be under Israel, which is very interesting from a Mashiach perspective, because we're told by Mashiach, we will receive these vast lands east of the Jordan River, Keni, Knizi, Kadmoni. Lubavitcher Rebbe, in the fall of 91, said, and this is printed and edited by the Rebbe personally, that those lands they'll give us from their goodwill. And now these Druze villages from their goodwill are saying, please take our lands. It's also very interesting because in Isaiah, there's a prophecy about taking Gaza, what we call Gaza, right? On the west bank of Israel, meaning on the western side of Israel. And in the prophecy, it says, from taking Gaza, the next step will be getting east of the Jordan, Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoni. So we're destroying Hamas and taking back what we unfortunately gave away to them, taking back Gaza, and now God's giving us east of the Jordan, lands of the Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoni. Amazing. Very messianic. Amazing miracles. And unbelievable how we remove this potential threat of Syria in 48 hours without any loss of life. But something else also happened and very significant. Syria was, as I said, in essence, a suburb of Iran. Israel, Syria, Iran. We destroyed Syria's air defense system. We previously, in October, knocked out most of Iran's air defense system. Now, Israel has a straight, undetected air access to Iran from Israel over Syria, where now they're blind. They have no jets and they can't see a thing. We knocked out their whole air defense system, going to a very blind Iran as well. So that was a tremendous, significant step allowing now to happen. Because, again, both in the war in June and in the war now, Israel has this ability to fly and send all these missions to Iran over Syrian airspace, undetected. So what God did by having Assad fall in December of 2024, yes, this amazingly evil, horrific person is taking off his power and his horrific repression of his own people. That's great. That's a messianic sign. Down with evil. That's one thing. Second, we remove this threat to us, what could be an existential threat, with their Air Force and their Navy and their Army, all gone, all decimated, all destroyed, removing a tremendous threat for us. But 3, beyond removing Assad's power, his horrific abuse of his own people, Beyond removing Syria as a threat to Israel, we're removing this link that was protecting Iran. We're removing this whole airspace of Syria that was blocked, that we couldn't use to reach Iran. Now we can go there freely. And something else happened, a fourth tremendous benefit. When Syria collapsed, and now, again, it's taken over by another evil person, but a very anti-Iran evil person, because Assad was Iran's puppet. So now Iran lost their land bridge for the weapons that they funneled into Hezbollah in Lebanon and to Hamas in Gaza. Meaning many of the weapons are built in Iran, transported through Syria, Iran's suburb, and then smuggled into Lebanon to Hezbollah or smuggled to get to Hamas in Gaza. But now Syria is no longer this vassal state to Iran. So it's not so simple now for Iran to get that weaponry to Hezbollah and Hamas. So beyond all the other points, this tremendously weakened these Iranian proxies. Every year, Iran puts $2 billion into their proxies, funneling them these weapons. Well, now it's a lot harder for them to get them these weapons. And especially, it's a lot harder to get to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is right next to Syria. All the weapons, Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, a straight shot. The whole point of Hezbollah, one, destroy Israel. Two, if Israel would try to attack Iran, attack, destroy, and distract Israel. So they won't be able to do it. Gone. Syria's power gone. Hezbollah's power is gone. Laying the stage for Iran's power to be gone as well. All right, we will stop at this point. And as I said, very, very exciting things. And just the main message of all of this is thank you, God. Thank you, God, for protecting us again and again and again. Thank you, God, for your miracles. Rachel, did you want to?